Reformed bullies. What made you change, and did you ever apologize? I'm watching my little sister have a mental breakdown in real time on TikTok, and 50,000 people are calling it justice. And I was the one who taught her torturer exactly how to break someone's mind. It started as background noise during my lunch break. I was mindlessly scrolling TikTok at my marketing job when a familiar voice made me freeze mid-chew of my sandwich. Please, I just want to go home. That was Mia, my 15-year-old sister, crying. The video was grainy, obviously filmed from a distance. Mia was sitting alone in what looked like our school's courtyard, hunched over her phone. The text overlay read, "When the bully sister finally gets what's coming to her." The account was called Tammy's Justice. 847 followers. The video had been posted 20 minutes ago and already had 200 likes and dozens of comments. She looks just like her psycho sister. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Tammy is watching from heaven and smiling. Tammy. I hadn't thought about Tammy Purnell in 6 years, but hearing that name felt like ice water in my veins. I clicked on the account. Only 12 videos, all posted in the last 3 weeks. All about Mia. The earliest video was titled, "Meeting the Bully's Little Sister." It showed Mia on her first day of sophomore year, looking confident and excited, chatting with friends by her locker. The caption read, "She has no idea what's coming." I scrolled through the timeline with growing horror. The videos documented Mia's gradual destruction in real time. Each post showed her looking a little more isolated, a little more broken. Day 3, spreading the word about her family. Day 7, her friends are starting to distance themselves. Day 12, she ate lunch alone today. Day 18, caught her crying in the bathroom. The comments were getting worse with each video. People were sharing the account, tagging friends, turning my sister's misery into entertainment. But it wasn't millions of views. It was intimate, targeted, just enough people to destroy Mia's social world without attracting adult attention. The most recent video, posted this morning, was a hidden camera footage of Mia in what looked like a guidance counselor's office. "I don't understand why everyone suddenly hates me," Mia was saying, her voice shaking. "They keep talking about my sister and some girl named Tammy. But I don't even know who Tammy is." The counselor's response was muffled, but I could make out something about rumors and high school drama. "They're saying I'm going to turn out just like her," Mia continued, "that it's genetic or something. But I don't even know what she did." The video cut off there. The caption read, "Even she knows something's wrong with her family." Part 1 of 3. Part 1 of 3. There were more videos coming. I tried calling Mia immediately, straight to voicemail, tried texting, read receipts showed she'd seen my messages, but no response. My hands were shaking as I looked through the comments again. Someone had posted, "OP should do a Tammy story time soon. People need to know what that family is capable of." Others were begging for details. What did the sister do to Tammy? Why did Tammy die? Tell us the tea. The account creator, whoever was behind Tammy's Justice, was building suspense. They weren't just destroying Mia randomly. They were methodically recreating something I'd done to Tammy. But the worst part wasn't the videos themselves. It was how familiar the tactics felt. The way Mia was being isolated from her friends, the systematic destruction of her reputation, the psychological manipulation designed to make her feel crazy and alone. I recognized these methods because I'd perfected them. Someone had been studying my playbook. Someone who knew exactly how I'd broken Tammy Purnell 6 years ago was now using those same techniques on my little sister. And they were documenting every step, turning Mia's destruction into content for an audience that thought she deserved it. I left work immediately, my hands still shaking as I started my car. The drive home felt endless, my mind racing through possibilities. Who was behind the account? How did they know about Tammy? And most terrifyingly, how much did they know about what I'd really done? Because if they knew everything, if they had proof of what I'd done to Tammy, then Mia wasn't just being bullied. She was paying for my sins. And I was about to find out that some debts never get forgiven. I broke every speed limit getting home, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. "Mia?" I called out, bursting through the front door. Silence. Mom appeared from the kitchen, dish towel in hand. "Casey, what are you doing home so early?" "Where's Mia?" "Upstairs in her room. She came home from school early. Said she had a headache." Mom looked concerned but not panicked. "She's been getting a lot of headaches lately. I'm thinking about taking her to the doctor." "Headaches." "Right." I took the stairs 2 at a time. Mia's door was locked. I could hear music playing softly, but underneath it, something that made my chest tight. Quiet crying. "Mia, it's Casey. Can we talk?" The crying stopped immediately. "Go away." "I saw the videos, Mia. The TikTok account." A long pause. Then, "You know about that?" "Yeah, and I want to help, but I need you to let me in." "You can't help." Her voice was muffled, like she was talking into a pillow. "You don't understand. They know things about you, about our family, things that make everyone hate me." My stomach clenched. "What kind of things?" "Videos, old videos of you, doing stuff to some girl named Tammy. They showed people at school." A shaky breath. "Casey, what did you do to her?" The hallway felt like it was tilting. "Mia, Everyone's seen them. The videos of you making this girl cry and and other stuff. They're saying I'm going to turn out exactly like you, that our whole family is sick. I pressed my forehead against her door. Can you tell me who showed you these videos? This girl in my grade, Phoebe something. She seemed really nice at first, like she wanted to be friends. But then she started asking weird questions about you, about our family. And then she showed me. Mia's voice broke. Casey, please tell me those videos aren't real. Phoebe. The name hit me. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to get Mia to open her door, but she wouldn't budge. Finally, I gave up and went to my old room, opening my laptop with shaking hands. I created a fake Instagram account and searched for Phoebe Purnell. Found her immediately. The resemblance was unmistakable. Same delicate features, same dark hair, but where Tammy had always looked fragile, Phoebe looked sharp, calculating. Her Instagram was perfectly curated. Honor roll student, volunteer work, college prep classes. In her bio, living for my sister's memory, mental health advocate. But when I dug deeper into Tammy's justice on TikTok, a different picture emerged. The account had been building slowly for 3 weeks, but the planning had obviously taken much longer. Early videos showed Phoebe accidentally befriending Mia, gaining her trust. I watched my sister light up as this new friend paid attention to her, included her in plans. Then came the shift. Subtle at first. Phoebe would post videos of Mia with captions like, "She seems sweet, but there's something off about her family." Comments started trickling in from accounts that were probably Phoebe's friends. By week 2, Phoebe was posting context videos, carefully edited clips that made Mia look spoiled, entitled Mean. A video of Mia laughing at something became, "Look how she reacts when people are hurt." A clip of Mia talking about wanting new clothes became, "Proof that privilege runs in the family." The manipulation was surgical. Phoebe had isolated Mia from her friend group by convincing them that Mia was hiding something dark about her family. She'd planted seeds of doubt, then watered them with just enough evidence to make people suspicious. But the real horror was in the comments. Phoebe was slowly feeding her followers information about me and Tammy, building towards some kind of revelation. People were commenting things like, "Can't wait for the Tammy backstory," and "The sister definitely knows family secrets." This wasn't random bullying. This was a methodical campaign designed to recreate something specific, something that had happened before. I opened a new browser tab and typed, Tammy Purnell obituary, 2019. Tammy Purnell, 18, beloved daughter and sister. Survived by parents Robert and Lauren Purnell, and younger sister Phoebe. Died 3 months after our graduation. 3 months after I'd left for college, thinking I was done with high school forever. I'd never known Tammy was dead. I'd never even wondered what happened to her after graduation. But Phoebe had been 11 years old when her sister died, old enough to understand, old enough to remember, old enough to spend 6 years planning revenge. And now she was using my own methods against my family, documenting every step like I'd taught her, creating a perfect mirror of what I'd done to Tammy, but this time with an audience cheering her on. My phone buzzed. A notification from TikTok. Tammy's Justice had posted a new video. The caption read, "Ready for the Tammy Purnell story? Part 1, drops tomorrow. You're going to understand why this family deserves everything that's coming to them." I sat there staring at Tammy's obituary photo, and I let myself really remember what I'd done. Not the sanitized version I'd been telling myself all through college, that I was just a typical mean girl, that everyone bullies someone in high school, that Tammy probably forgot all about it once she graduated. The real version, the version that made me a monster. It started sophomore year, fall 2016. Tammy Purnell was this quiet kid who transferred in mid-semester. She was into anime and gaming, which at our prep school might as well have been social suicide. She wore these vintage band t-shirts and had this nervous laugh that she'd do when she felt awkward, which was basically always. I don't even remember why I first noticed her, maybe because she was new, maybe because she seemed like an easy target, but something about Tammy just irritated me, the way she'd raise her hand in class with these thoughtful questions, how she'd eat lunch alone reading manga like she was perfectly content, like she didn't even care what the rest of us thought. That confidence, real or fake, drove me insane, so I decided to teach her that she should care, that she should be afraid. I'd make comments about her weird interests loud enough for her to hear. I'd roll my eyes when she spoke in class. Basic mean girl shit that I thought was just normal teenage behavior. But Tammy's reactions were so much more dramatic than other kids. She'd go bright red and stumble over her words. She'd actually tear up sometimes. And that reaction, that visible breakdown, was like a drug to me. I started paying attention to what broke her most effectively. Tammy cared desperately about fitting in, despite pretending she didn't. She wanted friends more than anything, but she was too anxious to know how to make them. So I weaponized that loneliness. I'd pretend to be her friend for a few days, include her in plans, make her think she'd finally found her people. Then I'd publicly humiliate her. I did this cycle maybe 6 times over sophomore year. Each time, Tammy would light up when I paid attention to her, like she couldn't help hoping this time would be different, and each time I'd crush that hope more creatively than the last. The recording thing started junior year, and honestly, I can't even blame it on being young or stupid. I knew exactly how fucked up it was. I just didn't care. It was during one of my fake friendship phases. I'd convinced Tammy to tell me about her crush on this guy Louis from our chemistry class. She was so excited to have someone to confide in, practically glowing as she told me about how he'd smiled at her in the hallway. I secretly recorded the whole conversation on my phone. The next day, I played it over the school's announcement system during morning announcements. Tammy's voice, nervous and hopeful, confessing her feelings to the entire school. Lewis laughed it off, but Tammy? Tammy ran out of first period crying and didn't come back for 3 days. When she finally returned, I apologized, said it was just a prank, that I felt terrible, and because Tammy was so desperate to believe someone actually cared about her, she forgave me. I realized I had unlimited power over her. As long as I occasionally threw her scraps of fake friendship, I could do literally anything to Tammy, and she'd keep coming back. I put a hidden camera in the girls' bathroom and recorded Tammy having panic attacks in the stalls. I filmed her eating lunch alone, zooming in on her face when she'd glance around hopefully, looking for someone to sit with. I recorded her crying after I'd pull one of my betrayal stunts. I kept everything on a private folder on my laptop that I password protected. I'd watch the videos when I was bored, sometimes with friends. We'd make drinking games out of Tammy's misery. Take a shot every time she says, "I'm sorry," finish your drink when she starts crying. I convinced myself it was harmless because Tammy never knew about the recordings. Like her pain didn't count if she wasn't aware I was documenting it. Senior year, I got more sophisticated. I started studying Tammy like a psychology experiment. I'd test different manipulation tactics and rate their effectiveness. I kept a literal spreadsheet tracking what made her break down fastest. I learned that Tammy's biggest trigger was feeling abandoned. So I'd get close to her, make her trust me, then disappear right when she needed support most. I did this during her grandmother's funeral, during college application season, right before prom when she thought we were going together as friends. Each time, I recorded her reaction. Each breakdown was more severe than the last, but my masterpiece, the thing I'm most ashamed of, was what I called the social experiment. I spent months building Tammy up, making her think she'd finally found real friends. I invited her to parties, included her in group chats, even convinced other people to be nice to her. For 3 months, Tammy was genuinely happy. She started wearing makeup, laughing more, raising her hand in class without that nervous stutter. Then I revealed it was all fake. I gathered everyone who'd been friends with Tammy and told them it had been a bet. Could we make the weird girl think she was popular? I showed them compilation videos I'd made of Tammy's most embarrassing moments. I turned her transformation into a joke, proof of how desperate and pathetic she was. I recorded Tammy's reaction when she found out. She just stood there in the cafeteria while 30 people laughed at her, and something in her face just died. Like I'd killed whatever hope she had left. That was February of senior year. Tammy basically disappeared after that. She'd show up to class, but she was like a ghost. She stopped eating lunch at school, stopped participating in anything, stopped trying to connect with people at all. I told myself she was being dramatic, that she'd bounce back, that everyone gets bullied in high school and most people turn out fine. I graduated feeling proud of my creativity. I thought I'd been so much more sophisticated than basic bullies who just threw punches or called people names. I'd created psychological art. I kept the best videos as trophies, stored them on a USB drive that I hid in my jewelry box, thinking maybe someday I'd show them to my college friends as funny stories about this weird girl from high school. I never thought about what those videos meant for Tammy, that I documented the systematic destruction of a human being's self-worth and kept the evidence like serial killer souvenirs. I never wondered if Tammy was okay after graduation, because I genuinely didn't think of her as fully human. She was my entertainment, my stress relief, my proof that I was better than someone. Reading her obituary 6 years later, I realized the truth I'd been too selfish to see. I hadn't just bullied Tammy Purnell, I'd tortured her until she broke completely, and I'd been so thorough, so creative in my cruelty, that I'd apparently created a blueprint for modern psychological warfare that Tammy's sister could follow step by step. Looking at Tammy's justice videos of Mia, I could see my own techniques reflected back at me. Phoebe had learned from the best. She'd studied my masterclass in human destruction and was now applying it to my little sister with surgical precision. She was probably going to be more effective than I'd been, because unlike me, Phoebe had a righteous cause. She wasn't just destroying someone for entertainment, she was delivering justice. And unlike Tammy, who'd suffered in silence, Phoebe had an audience cheering her on. I'd created a monster 6 years ago, and now that monster was coming for my family. I spent the entire night diving deeper into Tammy's justice, and what I found made me want to throw my laptop across the room. This wasn't some impulsive revenge plot by a grieving sister. This was a fucking masterpiece of long-term planning that made my high school schemes look like amateur hour. Phoebe had been preparing for this for years. In one of the videos showing Mia crying in the bathroom, you could see the edge of a phone screen in the reflection of the mirror. The wallpaper was a photo of Tammy, but it wasn't just any photo of Tammy. It was one from my old recordings. Tammy crying in that exact same bathroom stall 6 years ago. Phoebe wasn't just using my playbook. She had my actual footage. I dug deeper into Phoebe's social media history, using every digital stalking technique I'd learned in marketing. Her Instagram went back 5 years, and the evolution was terrifying. Freshman year, Phoebe posted normal teenage stuff, friend hangouts, school events, typical high school bullshit. But by sophomore year, her content shifted. She started posting about bullying awareness, mental health advocacy, justice for victims. I found pictures from some anti-bullying conference where Phoebe had given a speech. The description read, Phoebe Purnell shares her sister's story to educate others about the long-term impacts of systematic psychological abuse. Systematic psychological abuse. That's what she called what I did, and she wasn't wrong. I managed to find a video of Phoebe's speech buried in some nonprofit's YouTube channel. Watching it was like looking into a funhouse mirror of my own life. My sister Tammy was targeted by a classmate who turned her torture into entertainment, Phoebe said, standing at a podium with Tammy's photo behind her. This person didn't just bully Tammy, they studied her, documented her breakdowns, and shared her pain like it was a game. The audience was eating it up. Phoebe had Tammy's same soft voice, but where Tammy had been nervous and stuttering, Phoebe was articulate and commanding. She'd taken everything that made Tammy vulnerable and weaponized it into strength. The perpetrator kept recordings of my sister's worst moments, Phoebe continued. After Tammy died, we found evidence that she knew about some of these recordings. She died believing her pain was someone else's entertainment. My hands were shaking as I paused the video. Tammy had known about the recordings before she died. She'd known I kept trophies of her suffering and died with that knowledge. But then Phoebe said something that made me realize how fucked I really was. I've dedicated my life to studying the methods used against my sister. Understanding them. Learning from them. Because the only way to stop a predator is to think like one. She'd spent 6 years studying me like I'd studied Tammy, learning my techniques, understanding my psychology, preparing to turn my own weapons against me. I went back to TikTok with new eyes. The Tammy's Justice account looked different now that I understood what I was really seeing. This wasn't random cyberbullying. This was a professional-level psychological operation. Phoebe had infiltrated Mia's social circle using the same fake friendship technique I'd perfected. But she'd improved on my methods. Where I'd been obviously manipulative, Phoebe was subtle. She'd built genuine relationships with Mia's friends before slowly poisoning them against her. The videos documenting Mia's isolation weren't just cruel, they were educational. Phoebe was teaching her audience how systematic psychological abuse worked by demonstrating it in real time. Each video had comments like, "Now I understand how bullies operate," and "This is exactly what happened to my friend. I'd been sloppy, emotional, driven by random malice." Phoebe was calculating, methodical, driven by righteous purpose. She had the moral high ground, which made her 10 times more dangerous. I tried to find ways to contact her directly, but Phoebe had locked down every avenue. Her social media was private, her phone number unlisted. She'd thought of everything. I noticed something in the background of one of her Instagram photos, a bulletin board with what looked like a timeline posted on it. I zoomed in until I could make out some of the text. Phase 1, integration, complete. Phase 2, isolation, in progress. Phase 3, documentation, ongoing. Phase 4, revelation, December. Phase 5, resolution, December. That was 2 months away. Phoebe had been building towards some kind of climax, and she was almost ready to reveal whatever she'd been planning. I screenshot everything and started mapping out the timeline. Phoebe had started Phase 1 in September, gaining Mia's trust, infiltrating her social circle. Phase 2 began in October, systematically turning Mia's friends against her. Phase 3 was the TikTok documentation, building an audience for whatever came next. But what was Phase 4? What revelation was coming in December? I got my answer when I found Phoebe's college application essay posted on her school's website. The title was, "How My Sister's Death Taught Me About Justice." The essay was beautifully written, heartbreaking, and absolutely devastating. Phoebe described watching Tammy deteriorate throughout high school, not understanding why her confident sister was becoming a shell of herself. She wrote about finding Tammy's body, about discovering the recordings afterward, about dedicating her life to preventing other families from experiencing what hers had. This December, on the anniversary of my sister's death, I will complete her story. The perpetrator who destroyed my sister has a family of her own now. A younger sister who is the same age Tammy was when the torture began. I believe in restorative justice, that healing comes not from punishment, but from understanding. By recreating the conditions that led to my sister's death, I hope to help this family understand the true cost of their cruelty, recreating the conditions that led to Tammy's death. Phoebe wasn't just bullying Mia, she was pushing her toward the same ending Tammy had reached, and she was documenting every step to prove that my methods inevitably led to suicide. Mia wasn't Phoebe's target. Mia was Phoebe's proof of concept. I couldn't wait 2 months for Phoebe's grand finale, not when I could see Mia disappearing more each day, becoming a ghost in our own house. So I did what any desperate big sister would do. I skipped work and camped out in the student parking lot of Westfield Prep like a total creep. It was the same parking lot where I used to corner Tammy 6 years ago. Sitting there in my car, watching teenagers stream out after school, I felt like I was 17 again. Except this time, I was the one waiting to get confronted. Phoebe was easy to spot. She looked exactly like Tammy, but where Tammy had always seemed fragile, like she might blow away in a strong wind, Phoebe moved with this quiet confidence that reminded me uncomfortably of myself at that age. She walked toward a white Honda with 2 other girls, laughing about something on her phone. I got out of my car and intercepted her before she could drive away. Phoebe Purnell. She turned around, and for a second, I was looking into Tammy's face. Same dark eyes, same delicate features. But Phoebe's expression was nothing like Tammy's had ever been. Where Tammy had always looked nervous or scared when she saw me, Phoebe looked satisfied, like she'd been expecting this moment. "Casey Heathcote," she said calmly. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Her friends were staring at us, clearly confused. Phoebe waved them off. "I'll catch up with you guys later." We stood there facing each other in the parking lot where I'd destroyed her sister. "You need to stop," I said. "Whatever you're planning for December, whatever point you think you're making, Mia doesn't deserve this. Phoebe tilted her head, studying me with this clinical detachment that was absolutely chilling. Tammy didn't deserve what you did to her either, but that didn't stop you. I was a kid. I didn't understand. You were 18 when you recorded my sister having a panic attack in this parking lot and showed it to your friends at a party. Phoebe's voice was steady, matter of fact. You were 18 when you convinced her to trust you and then humiliated her at homecoming. You were old enough to understand exactly what you were doing. She was right, and we both knew it. I'd been a legal adult for most of the worst stuff I did to Tammy. You want to know something funny? Phoebe continued. I used to think you were some kind of criminal mastermind, this evil genius who'd outsmarted everyone, but meeting you now, I realize the truth is so much worse. What do you mean? You're just pathetic. She said it like she was commenting on the weather. You tortured my sister because you were bored. You kept recordings of her breakdowns because you thought they were funny. You destroyed someone's will to live because it made you feel powerful. It was true. I had been pathetic. I had done those things for exactly those reasons. Tammy saved everything, you know? Phoebe said, pulling out her phone. Every recording you made, every humiliating photo, every cruel message. She kept it all on her laptop like evidence for a trial that never came. I found it all after the funeral. Spent weeks watching every video, reading every message, trying to understand why someone would do this to another human being. Phoebe's composure finally cracked slightly. Do you know what it's like to watch hours of footage of your sister being psychologically tortured by someone who clearly enjoyed it? I felt sick. Phoebe, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but you're sorry now because it's your sister. You weren't sorry when it was mine. You're right. But Mia has nothing to do with what I did to Tammy. Neither did Tammy. Phoebe's voice was ice cold. Tammy never did anything to you. She was just an easy target who reacted dramatically to being hurt, just like Mia. Please, I'll do anything. I'll confess publicly. You'll what? Face consequences 6 years too late? Phoebe laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think an apology brings my sister back? I was grasping for anything, any way to reach her. What would Tammy want? Do you really think she'd want you to hurt an innocent person? Phoebe's mask slipped completely. Her face crumpled with grief and rage. Don't you dare tell me what Tammy would want. You didn't know her. You saw her as a toy, not a person. Tammy was kind and creative and funny, and she died thinking she was worthless because you convinced her she was. She wiped her eyes roughly, pulling herself back together. But you want to know what Tammy would want? She'd want people to understand. She'd want other kids to recognize the warning signs, to know that what you did wasn't normal teenage drama. It was systematic abuse. So teach them without destroying Mia. Mia is the lesson. Phoebe's voice was final. Your family gets to experience what mine did. And this time, everyone will be watching when it happens. She turned to walk away, then looked back over her shoulder. December 15th. That's when Tammy died. Mark your calendar. I stood there in that parking lot long after Phoebe drove away, finally understanding that I hadn't just created a monster 6 years ago. I'd created someone who was better at being me than I'd ever been. December 15th came faster than I wanted it to, and slower than I could handle. I'd spent 2 months trying everything to stop what was coming. Contacted lawyers who told me cyberbullying laws were basically useless when the perpetrator was a minor with good grades and no prior record. Tried going to Westfield Prep's administration, who informed me that Phoebe Purnell was an exemplary student and any conflict between our families was a personal matter they couldn't address without concrete evidence of wrongdoing. Concrete evidence, like someone recording another person's psychological breakdown, wasn't concrete enough when I was the one doing it 6 years ago. I even tried reaching out to Tammy's parents, thinking maybe they could talk sense into Phoebe. That backfired spectacularly when Tammy's mom hung up on me after saying, "You have some nerve calling this house after what you did to our daughter." Tammy had told them everything before she died. They'd known exactly who I was this whole time. Meanwhile, Mia was disappearing in front of us. She'd lost 15 pounds, stopped sleeping, quit the drama club she'd loved since middle school. Mom and Dad were finally starting to notice something was seriously wrong, but they still thought it was just typical teenage adjustment issues. I couldn't tell them the truth without revealing what I'd done to Tammy, and honestly, I was still too much of a coward to face that conversation. December 15th fell on a Friday. I took the day off work and spent it refreshing Tammy's justice obsessively, waiting for whatever nuclear bomb Phoebe was about to drop. The video went live at 3:47 p.m., exactly 6 years to the minute after Tammy had been found dead in her bedroom. The title was simple: Tammy Purnell's Story, The Full Truth. It wasn't what I expected. Instead of immediately exposing me, Phoebe started with Tammy. Real Tammy, not the pathetic victim I'd turned her into in my memories. She showed Tammy's artwork, her writing, videos of her laughing with friends before I destroyed her social life. Tammy reading poetry at a school assembly. Tammy being an actual human being with dreams and talents and people who loved her. I'd forgotten that Tammy existed outside of my torture sessions. I'd reduced her to nothing but my victim in my memory, erasing every other part of who she was. Then Phoebe showed the other side, my side, and this is where I realized how thoroughly fucked I was. She had everything. Not just the recordings I'd made, but security footage from school cameras, Screenshots of group chats where I'd bragged about my experiments, even recordings my friends had made of our Tammy watching parties. Phoebe had built a prosecutor-level case documenting 6 years of systematic psychological abuse. Phoebe had somehow gotten access to Tammy's own recordings, videos Tammy had made trying to document what was happening to her, probably thinking she'd need proof if she ever got brave enough to report me. In one video, Tammy was talking directly into her camera, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand why Casey hates me so much. I keep trying to figure out what I did wrong, but I can't think of anything. Maybe I really am as worthless as she says I am. In another, I found one of the cameras today. In the bathroom. I think she's been recording me this whole time. I feel so stupid for not realizing sooner. And the final one, recorded just days before Tammy died. I can't do this anymore. Every day feels like drowning. I keep thinking about what Casey said, that no one would miss me if I disappeared. Maybe she's right. I had to pause the video to throw up. When I came back, Phoebe was addressing the camera directly. This is what systematic psychological abuse looks like. This is how someone destroys another person for entertainment, and this is what happens when there are no consequences. Then she showed recent footage of Mia, my sister, looking exactly like Tammy had in those final recordings. Broken, hopeless, convinced she was fundamentally flawed. Tammy's tormentor has a family now, Phoebe continued. A little sister who's experiencing the same systematic destruction Tammy did. I've been documenting this process to show that these methods don't just hurt, they kill. And the people who use them will keep using them until someone stops them. The video ended with a simple message. Tammy Purnell deserved justice. She deserved to live, and she deserved for people to know what really happened to her. Today, on the anniversary of her death, her story is finally being told. Within 6 hours, the video had 500,000 views. By the next morning, it was trending on every platform. News outlets picked it up. My name, my face, my employer, everything was public. I lost my job by Monday, got evicted from my apartment by the end of the month when my landlord decided he didn't want a viral psychopath as a tenant, had to move back in with my parents, who finally learned the truth about what their older daughter had done. That conversation with mom and dad was harder than anything Phoebe could have done to me. Watching my father cry while reading about what I'd done to Tammy broke something in me that I didn't know could break. My sister, who I'd been trying to protect, looked at me like I was a stranger. You did all that to someone? You actually recorded a girl crying and kept it like a trophy? I couldn't lie to her anymore. Yes. And you never felt bad about it? Not until it was too late. Mia was quiet for a long time. Then, I don't know who you are. The legal fallout was a nightmare. Some of the footage I'd taken of Tammy qualified as child exploitation material since we'd both been minors. I ended up pleading guilty to cyber-stalking and harassment charges, got 2 years probation, and court-ordered therapy. But honestly, the legal stuff was nothing compared to what happened next. The internet had decided I was their main character for a few weeks. People found my address, my parents' work, every detail of my life. I got death threats, had protesters outside our house, couldn't leave without someone filming me for their own social media content. I was getting a taste of what I'd put Tammy through, except amplified by the entire internet instead of just one high school. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months later, when the viral attention had mostly moved on, I finally did what I should have done 6 years earlier. I wrote a real apology to Tammy's family. Not for forgiveness, I knew I'd never get that, but because they deserved to know that someone finally understood the magnitude of what had been taken from them. Tammy's mom wrote back. One line, Tammy was going to be an art teacher. She wanted to help kids who felt different find their place in the world. I finally understood what I'd really done. I hadn't just killed Tammy Purnell. I'd killed every kid she would have helped, every life she would have touched, every beautiful thing she would have created. I started volunteering at a crisis hotline. Went back to school for psychology, spent my court-ordered therapy actually working instead of just showing up. Because if I was going to live with what I'd done, I needed to make sure I never did it again. Mia and I eventually rebuilt our relationship, but it took years. She forgives me, I think, but she'll never look at me the same way. Neither will my parents. Neither will I. Phoebe Purnell still posts about Tammy sometimes, keeping her sister's memory alive in healthier ways. She never contacted me again after that video went viral, and I'm grateful for that. She said what needed to be said. I think about Tammy every day. Not the broken girl from my recordings, but the real Tammy. The artist, the writer, the person who wanted to help kids like herself. I think about who she could have become if I hadn't decided she was my entertainment. I can't bring her back. I can't undo the damage I caused her family. I can't erase the fact that my cruelty created a cycle of trauma that nearly destroyed my own sister too. But I can make sure it stops with me. Tammy Purnell deserved better than the world she got. The least I can do is make sure other kids get better than what I gave her.